Good evening, Wapham crew. Secure your tinfoil hats, buckle down tight, and hold on loosely as we soar over the rocky tops of the La Platas on a rocky mountain high, get sucked into the vortex of the Four Corners, and settle down snugly at mile marker 420 in colorful Colorado. Welcome to the Mile High Clubhouse. We are going to have a wonderful time tonight. Tonight I'm going to be reading some stories to you from Hollywood urban legends. The truth behind all those delightfully persistent myths of film, television, and music by Mr. Richard Roeper. So, thank you for joining us this evening on We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies. I hope you guys have had an awesome weekend so far. My weekend's been insane, as per usual. Since the man of the house is gone, I'm the gal in charge, so if you need anything, just come over and talk to me. I'll hook you up. If you're listening live right now, you're listening on Spreaker.com to We Are Paradox Media. You can also find us live on KPNL Radio, which you can find at kpnl-db.com. You can also find us on so many different outlets. I cannot even list them all, but we have Spreaker, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Castbox, Tumblr, SoundCloud, TuneIn Radio, Deezer, Podcast Addict, and Podcast Chaser. Make sure you go over to our Facebook and our Twitter. We have a lot of fun over there. We have a message of the day from the universe, and these things are good for you. If you go to our YouTube, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like every video that you listen to because they're all great. I love all of our guests. We're going to have a good weekend. Next weekend, I don't know. I don't know exactly what we're going to do on Sunday. We might do the Paradox Paranormal Forum, as per usual, but we might actually go on a live investigation with Lindy, Josh, and Tommy from Tangipahoa Parish Paranormal Society. That would be awesome. Hello, my beautiful sister Sandra. So wonderful to see you in here. But yes, make sure you smash that like button, tickle that bell, do all those fun stuff that you do on YouTube just to keep us going and to get us in there in the little genre of YouTube and get our likes up there. So far, we almost have 200 subscribers. Can you believe it? Oh my gosh. Almost 200. I can hardly believe it. Well, this evening, like I said before, we shall be reading from the book of Hollywood Urban Legends. The truth behind all those delightfully persistent myths of film, television, and music by Richard Roeper. I really like this book. It's a lot of fun. Last time we had a lot of good fun with it. Trying to see when the last time that was. Holy shnikes. Yeah, that was on the 9th. So it's been a little while. Look at how, if you look at the cover of this book, Richard Roeper looks very young in this book. He's not that young anymore. None of us stay young. We shed our skins. Oh wow, this is where we left off last time. It was about Lucille Ball being a communist. Holy shnikes. So the Daily Worker issue of April 10th, 1951 contained an article captioned, "Where are the big stars who once opposed the un-American?" Among those Hollywood personalities named as previously being opposed to the HUAC was Lucille Ball. Lucille Ball signed a certificate as a sponsor for Emil Fried, a Communist Party candidate for Assembly, 57th District in 1936. That Lucille Ball was appointed to the State Central Committee of the Communist Party of California in 1936. And we actually talked about this when we had our guest on last weekend, Mr. Stephen B. Ubaney, one of my favorite authors and people. He's an awesome guy. He actually invited me to write a book with him. Can you believe that, Sandra? I'm blown away. I still can't believe it. I think I bit off a little bit more than I could chew. But how could I resist saying yes to him? Holy shnikes. If I could even just meet him, that'd be awesome. But he's like, I'll put in 5,000 hours if you'll put in 5,000 hours writing the Martin Luther King Jr. story. How do I know what I'm writing and he's writing, right? I don't know. But yeah, back in the day, a lot of people were blinded by communism. They didn't even realize the reality of it. They had this little, like you said, Main Street America in Disneyland, this fake freaking cardboard little city, and everybody looks so happy and doing their little ditties. Guess what? Wasn't what they showed. Behind the scenes, communism is very ugly. Kind of wishing Mr. Jason would call in right now to fill us in on communism in our society today. So, to put this into perspective, one has to appreciate just how widely popular Lucy was in the early 1950s, and just how much the Communist Party was loathed and feared. It would be as if somebody unearthed documents from the 1990s showing that Jerry Seinfeld had supported Saddam Hussein. Could you imagine? Really? So Lucy found herself in this pickle because her grandfather's socialist leanings. Her father died when she was just 4, and her mother remarried a roustabout who had a drinking and gambling problem. So she and her brother were sent to live with their grandparents. Wow, that happened to me and my brother too. In fact, Lucy referred to her grandfather, Fred Hunt, as Daddy. Hunt was much loved by Lucy and her brother, so much so that when she registered to vote at the age of 24, she, and presumably her brother, listed themselves as a member of the Communist Party to make an old man happy, as she later put it. That Lucy was listed as a delegate for the party, that her house was used for meetings, and that her name was signed to documents confirming her affiliation. This was all the news to her. According to her testimony in front of the House Un-American Activities Committee on September 4th, 1953. Selected excerpts from investigator William Wheeler's questioning of America's most beloved comic actress. Wheeler: you did register to vote in 1936 as a communist or intended to vote the Communist Party ticket. Ball: yes. Wheeler: would you go into detail and explain the background, the reason you voted or registered to vote as a communist or person who intended to affiliate with the Communist Party? Ball: well, it was over our grandfather, Fred Hunt. He just wanted us to, and we wanted to please him. Well, I didn't intend to vote that way. As I recall, I didn't. My grandfather started years ago. He was a socialist, as long as I can remember. He is the only father we ever knew, my grandfather. My father died when I was tiny, before my brother was born. Wheeler: have you ever been a member of the Communist Party? Lucille Ball: no. Wheeler: have you ever asked to become a member of the Communist Party? Ball: no. Wheeler: did you ever attend any meetings that you later discovered to be a Communist Party meeting? Ball: no. And there's 3 stars. Wheeler: are you aware that you were a member of the Central Committee of the Communist Party for the year of 1936? Was I aware before you told me, you mean? Yes. Ball: no. Note: Wheeler then produced a document showing Ball to be one of 3 delegates to the Central Party Committee as named by Emil Fried, and asked Ball to explain her signature on this particular document. Ball: I have no explanation. I haven't signed it. I don't know where it came from or what. My name is misspelled. The address is right, and that's all. 3 stars again. At the conclusion of the Q&A session, Ball was asked if she had anything she wanted to add. She noted that she did something that wasn't wrong in 1936, but apparently was wrong according to the climate of the 1950s, and added, I have never done anything for communists to my knowledge at any time. I've never contributed money or attended a meeting or even had anything to do with people connected with it. I am not a communist now. I never have been. I never wanted to be. Nothing in the world would ever change my mind. Well, it sounds a little weak and corny now, but at the time, it was very important because we knew we weren't going to have... Holy shit, this page just stuck together. Is there honey? What? Okay, so... We weren't going to have Daddy with us very long. If it made him happy, it was important at the time. But I was always conscientious of the fact that I could go just so far to make him happy. In those days, it was almost as terrible to be a Republican as it was to be a communist. The testimony was not televised, and news of Ball's appearance before the committee did not immediately surface. But within a week, it was splashed all over the news. On September 12th, 1953, Arnaz addressed the studio audience that had assembled for filming of the first episode of the new season. "Before we go on, I want to talk to you about something serious," he said. "We all know what it is. The papers have been full of it all day. Lucille is no communist. Lucille has never been a communist. Not now and never will be. I was kicked out of Cuba because of communism. We both despise the communists and everything they stand for. I was very anxious for all of this to come out. I know that you would find the truth, that Lucy had nothing to do with this, and she's completely clear. We both despise anything and everything that smacks of communism." In the midst of the controversy, Lucy and Desi also took a phone call from the all-powerful, all-knowing Mr. Oz. Just kidding. It was Hedda Hopper, who recounted their conversation in her column in the Los Angeles Times, quoting Lucy as saying, quote, "It is true that I talked to the representative of the Un-American Activities Committee and gave full, truthful answers to all his questions. I'm very happy to have had this opportunity to reply to all the unfounded rumors and hope that the committee will release a full script of the information I gave them." Hopper reported that Desi then got on the phone and said, "You tell your readers this, Hedda. The only thing that is red about this kid is her hair. And even that is not legitimately red. We're all in the clear all the way." So although Representative Donald Jackson of the HUAC uttered the chilling words, "No case is ever closed," the controversy pretty much died with Ball's straightforward testimony. The strong denials that she and Desi issued the government's findings that after registered as a communist in 1936, Lucy never once voted commie and didn't participate in any subversive activities from that point on. Major sponsors of I Love Lucy voiced their support, the ratings didn't suffer at all, and the show flourished for several years. And I think it still does today. If you watch Nick at Night, does Nick at Night even still happen? I don't even know. All I know is I have a smart TV and a couple of subscriptions on there. So in other words, Lucy really did do it for her dear old granddaddy. Despite persistent rumors that live on to this day, Lucille Ball has never been a card-carrying member of the Communist Party. And I never believed that. That's why I was blown away when I started to read that. I'm like, are you serious? No way in hell is Lucille Ball a communist. So this next chapter is called Mean Martha Stewart. When I started doing various media jobs that placed me in the public eye, I made a vow to never utter the words, "Don't you know who I am?" It's terribly off-putting for a national celebrity, or a local celebrity, or a near celebrity, or somebody who mistakenly thinks he's a celebrity to say to another human being. First of all, who fucking cares? Really. Unless you're Jesus Christ and you've come back to earth to straighten out those whole mess, you shouldn't be so full of yourself and all of your bellowing. Don't you know who I am? To people. More to the point, if you find yourself in a circumstance where you have to ask that question, it's already been answered for you. Either the person you're addressing obviously doesn't know who the fuck you are, or she is fully aware of your celebrity and she's still choosing to treat you in such a manner that has you asking the egotistical question, What she's saying is, yeah, so you're on some stupid sitcom. It's still not going to get you on the flight that's overbooked. Consider what happened to Martha Stewart as a lesson. So, the legendary goddess of potpourri has an estate on Mount Desert Island in Maine. And one day, she was waiting in a long line at the local market when she asked the clerk if she could use her telephone. Sorry, the clerk said. We're not allowed to let customers type the phone. Company rules. Steam shot out of Martha's ears and she said, Don't you know who I am? Nope, said the clerk. I don't. I can't believe this. At that point, the gentleman behind Stewart gently tapped her on the shoulder. She rolled around with fire in her eyes and said, What? What do you want? Hey, Mooney. Hello, Mr. Moonlight. Madam, do you know who I am? I have no idea, said Stewart. Well, my name is David Rockefeller, and they won't let me use the phone either. You gotta love the mental image of the self-aggrandizing maven of arts and crafts getting her comeuppance in such a public way. The quote, Martha, it's a good thing. Remember on SNL? I love that shit. It's a good thing. But not a true thing. Stewart has a reputation for being a demanding taskmaster with a gigantic ego, and there are enough stories about her allegedly insufferable behavior to fill a number of magazine articles and a couple of books. Literally. And she has been involved in a number of documented and alleged incidents that aren't exactly in keeping with a hearth and home image, for her nasty divorce to an ugly feud with East Hampton's neighbor to stories about her mistreating employees and having a vocabulary that would make a truck driver blush. Until Snoop Doggy Dogg comes over and smokes a joint with her ass, then she's peaceful. Betcha. Bet. Let's bet. So the market incident, however, seems to be entirely fictitious. From September 2nd, 2000 edition of the Boston Globe. Quote, It's a nice little story, but it didn't happen, says Ann Tucker, manager of the Village Market in Still Harbor on Mount Desert Island, where the encounter probably would have occurred. Tucker has heard the story a zillion times and said it doesn't ring true. First off, David Rockefeller would never announce himself that way. Star. So another Martha-related urban legend claims that she is a terrible cook and an extremely uncoordinated individual who couldn't bake or create any of her signature creations if her life depended on it. According to this urban legend, Stewart has staff members who do all of her cooking, even in her home kitchen when she's throwing parties. And when she's crafting something on TV, there's another woman who is using her hands, and you see it whenever there's a close-up. Hey, didn't George Costanza do the same hand-modeling work on Seinfeld? Well, anyways, then there are stories about Stewart backing out of her driveway and running over the neighbor's dog or cat, killing the poor little freaking animal. Martha's supposed reaction? She sues the pet's owner to recover damages sustaining to her back bumper of her fancy SUV. We stress here that none of the aforementioned stories about Stewart are backed by hard evidence. No doubt these vindictive, fictitious tales thrive because there are so many people who loathe Stewart and the billion-dollar empire she has built on neurosis of upwardly mobile women who thinks they're who think they are a failure if they're not Hillary Clinton in the workplace and Betty Crocker at home. The Martha Stewart ULs either embarrass her or reveal her to be a fraud, thus confronting those who are overwhelmed and intimidated by this woman's ferociously obsessive way of life. Like I said, all she's got to do is go and smoke some weed with Snoop Doggy Dogg. and then Martha Stewart shall be happy again. Snoop Doggy Dogg. Whoa, whoa. So instead of thunder and lightning, now you shall listen to me vape for my vape pod. Okay, so the next chapter is the celebrity snub. Whenever I feel the urge to belittle or mock someone who has just told me a true story about someone famous, a story that I know to be nothing but 100% genuinely recycled urban legend, I try to remember that I've been there too. I, too, have happily swallowed many a Hollywood-based UL as a nutritious nugget of truth that I've gleefully repeated over the years as an example of my pop culture history pedigree, only to one day hear a strangely similar story in a slightly different form, or with different names in the starring roles, and then suddenly I'd realize that for all that time, I'd been unwittingly contributing to the myth-making machinery. I blame it all on Dad. My father is one of the all-time greatest skeptics. He regularly marks the newspaper with scoffing remarks or informed questions regarding a dubious assertion he sees in a story. And he's been an urban myth aficionado for a couple of decades. But that doesn't make him immune to the lure of the well-informed urban legend about some famous face. It was Dad who first told me the story of the celebrity snub. It was Dad who most likely he recounted the tale one night in the 1970s when we were in the living room watching The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson. Man, I miss that. And it was featuring Don Rickles making one of his frequent appearances. Rickles, of course, is the frog-faced comedian who made it big on the strength of his equal opportunity insult routine, in which he would lambaste everything ethnic from a group of Native Americans to gays to African Americans to Italians, trafficking a broad and easy stereotype, yet somehow managing to stop just short of being truly offensive. Rickles, man, that guy. Didn't he play a demon on a movie not too long ago? I remember his eyes glowing red and some crazy shit happening. Rickles was pretty talented. Nasty motherfucker. Anywho's, Rickles also had no qualms about harpooning his fellow celebrities, whether he was mercilessly ribbing Ed McMahon about guzzling too many beers with his Clydesdale friends or harassing Carson about his numerous ex-wives. In fact, Rickles was so fearless and funny that he was the only guy in Hollywood who could get away with making jokes about Frank Sinatra, and he could even pull off a practical joke at the chairman of the board's expense, or so the story goes. One day, back in the early 1960s, at the height of the Rack Pack craze, Rickles was having dinner with an impersonable starlet at the Las Vegas restaurant when he caught a glimpse of Sinatra and his entourage making their way through the casino. The comedian made an excuse about needing to use the bathroom and then hustled after Frank. He got up to him at the bar, where he kissed his ring and made a few jokes for everyone's amusement before whispering a humble request into his ear. "Listen, can you do me a big favor?" said this sweaty little comic. "I've got this great-looking dolly in the restaurant, and I'm trying to cash in some chips for her, if you know what I mean. Yeah. So, but she's playing hard to get. If you could just come by the table for half a minute and say hello, I know that would really impress her. It'd impress the hell out of her, and she'd be mine tonight." Oh my, ever the gracious Don. Sinatra agreed to help out a friend. "Great," said Rickles. "You're the best, Frank." If you could just wait a few minutes and then come by, I'd be forever in your debt. Rickles returned to his date just as their meals were arriving, and he resumed their conversation as if nothing had happened. A few minutes later, the restaurant buzzed with excitement as Sinatra himself entered and headed straight for Rickles' table. "Don!" he said with exaggerated excitement, his arms open. "Had I known you were here, I would have sent over champagne. How are you, my friend?" The starlet's jaw dropped and, right down into her cleavage. "Hey, Jason. Hey. Yeah, her jaw dropped into her cleavage. But Rickles didn't even look up from his dinner. "Not now, Frank," he said, with a dismissive wave of his hand. "Can't you see I'm eating?" Yeah. In my eagerness to believe that Rickles had the moxie to pull off such a stunt, I never considered that he might have transpired something in the moments immediately after Rickles' zinger. Hard to picture Sinatra skulking away like a schoolchild who had been scolded, isn't it? More likely, he would have poured a highball in Rickles' ear or stolen the starlet from his grasp with a snap of his fingers, just to teach him a lesson. Of course, then the story wouldn't be the same or as funny, would it? But the best advice that this incident never took place is its resurgence in recent years. As a first-person anecdote circulating on the internet, the celebrities ranging from Michael Jordan to Bill Gates getting set up by lesser lights or by total strangers. Here's a version that was sent to me. My name is Chris Franklin, and I've always believed in the aggressive approach in life and especially in business. Here's a true story. I was in the Admirals Club at the airport last week when I spotted none other than motherfucking Bill Gates. Could you imagine? Doesn't he have his own private jet or something? Like, seriously, you're gonna spot him at the Admirals Club? Give me a break. Anyways, quietly tapping away on his laptop in the corner by himself. As it so happens, I was schmoozing with an important client before we were getting on a flight to Seattle. So when my client went to the bathroom, I dashed over to Gates, introduced myself as his biggest fan, and asked him if he'd make my year with a simple favor. All he had to do was come over and pretend to know me, and I'd look like a total big shot. He agreed, and a few minutes later, I was talking to my client when Gates appeared, tapped me on the shoulder, and said, "Chris, it's great to see you." And I replied, "Not now, Gates. Can't you see I'm busy?" No. And then Don Rickles walked by and said, "Quit stealing my story, you hockey puck." Yeah. Alright, so the next chapter is named Music. Musica. Oh, shit. So this next chapter is Madonna, Tip Top Starlet. I can hardly wait. I'm feeling, actually, I have to let you guys know, I'm feeling kind of weird, like, when I first got COVID, that sinus headache going on. I'm kind of feeling that, and I'm hoping I'm not having a retake on that shit. Because fuck COVID. I'm so over that shit. Alright, Madonna, Tip Top Starlet, under the chapter of music. According to the old joke, satire is what closes on Saturday night. That may still hold true, but in the new age of instant misinformation, satire is also what gets us reproduced as a street news story on the internet and is then picked up by mainstream news organizations, thus completing the circle and giving the satirical piece of work a veneer of credibility, and it does give it merit, or it does not give merit. Case in point, Madonna's Hungarian interview. In 1996, Madonna was interviewed by a reporter for the Hungarian newspaper Blick. while she was in Budapest filming Evita. Because Madonna does not speak Hungarian, and the reporter did not speak any English, an interpreter was needed to relay the questions back and forth. The interview ran on the front page of the May 2nd, 1996 edition of Blick under the headline Madonna Visitar, which means Madonna is returning. In a clever and funny piece about the story, Karen Thomas of USA Today had Madonna's answers, which had originated in English but had been translated in Hungarian and translated back again to English. This was no easy trick, as Hungarian is an exceedingly difficult language and is not particularly compatible with English, but it made for some chuckles. By the time Madonna's remarks had made it through the interpreter and the interpretation blender several times, something had definitely been mangled, if not lost in translation. Asked about her pregnancy, Madonna said, "I'm not an experimental object," and added, "The conception is symbolical. I feel that both my pregnancy and the film itself are basically changing my life. Even George W. Bush makes more sense than that." As for her favorite Hungarian restaurant, Madonna was quoted as saying, "I was unable to make any special gastronomic excursions." She also complimented Hungarian men for their looks, but added, "These are, of course, generalities. However, I am a person of prompt decision." She also said it was indeed possible for an unapproachable star to get close to a very everyday person. This is the caprice of love. As Dana Carvey imitating... it was Dana, not Dana, sorry. As Dana Carvey, imitating Johnny Carson, would say, "Now that is some weird stuff, some weird and wacky stuff." Witty as it might have been, the USA Today article didn't attract much attention after it ran, but it did light the fires of inspiration of Gary Trudeau, the creator of Doonesbury comic strip, and an occasional essayist. So, in the May 20 of 1996 issue of Time magazine, Trudeau published a piece titled, "I Am a Tip-Top Starlet," in which something is lost, but much is gained in translation. He started the column by recapping Madonna's visit to Budapest and the interview she gave to Blick, and then he mentioned that at the request of USA Today, Madonna's comments were then translated from Hungarian back to English for the benefit of that paper's readers. To say that something was lost in the process is to be wildly ungrateful for all that was gained. USA Today, presumably pressed for space, published only a few of Madonna's gems, leaving the rest to the imagination, whence has sprung the following complete transcript. Blick. Madonna. Budapest says hello with arms that are spread-eagled. Did you have a visit here that was agreeable? Are you in good odor? You are the biggest fan of our young people who hear your musical productions and like to move their bodies in response, Madonna. Thank you for saying these compliments. Holds up hands. Please stop with taking sensationalist photographs until I have removed my garments for all to say, "Ha ha 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 ha, this is a joke I have made." Chuckle-inducing, to be sure, but completely fictitious. One hint of the interview's bogus quality. The interviewer's questions are just mangled as Madonna's answers. Another sample question, "Are you a bold, hussy-faced woman that feasts on men who are tops?" This makes no sense if the interview is supposed to be real. Why would the Hungarian interviewer's syntax be so disjointed? He's asking the question in his native tongue. And I'm sorry, I don't even know the Hungarian. the Hungarian, I want to say, what is the word for it? Not transcript. Slang, or the way they say things. I just kind of automatically go Indian sometimes, and it makes it fun. So, anywho's, so in his native tongue, nevertheless, portions of Trudeau's hilarious piece were cut and pasted all over the internet, and suddenly, USA Today article and the satirical takeoff were joined like Siamese twins. Columnists, editors, and reporters across the country jumped on Trudeau in his essay and festooned it with credibility. So, this being thus, on May 16th, 1996, in the Charlotte News and Observer, they reported, when Madonna granted an interview to a Budapest publication recently, she had no idea what she was getting into. The Material Girl was in Hungary filming a Vita when she talked with a Hungarian person from Bleak. It went thus. The paper asked a question in Hungarian. Then it was translated into English for Madonna. Then the answer was translated into Hungarian for Bleak. Madonna's response was translated into English for USA Today's behest, and the result was a comedy of errors. Here is your sample. Bleak. Madonna. Budapest says hello with arms that are spread-eagled. Did you have a visit here that was agreeable? Are you in good odor? Madonna. Thank you for saying these compliments. Holds up hands. Please stop with taking sensationalist photographs until I have removed my garments for all to say, ha ha ha, this is a joke I have made. Sound familiar? Although it's interesting to note that a portion of Trudeau's set-up question got lost in translation from satirical piece to budding urban legend, all of the questions and answers in the News and Observer article are lifted from the Time essay rather than the USA Today article. So, the London Daily Mail, the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, the Asheville, North Carolina Citizen-Times, the Tampa Tribune, and a number of other newspapers in the Knight Ridder chain also were victims of the mix-up. They unwittingly went with a fictional hussy woman. Questions rather than any of the real translations. 2 years later, the confusion still reigned, as evidenced by an article in the August 14th, 1998 edition of the London Daily Guardian that noted the internet popularity of Madonna interview, but failed to point out that it was originally published as a comedy bit. From the Guardian article, when Time magazine produced this journalistic gem, it commented, quote, to say that something was lost in the process is to be wildly ungrateful for all that was gained. Yes, and to get the facts that jumbled is to further propagate an urban legend. R-U-L, as is to be said. My toes. Oh, Mooney, what's wrong with your toes? What's wrong with Moon's toes? I didn't even know the Moon had toes. Let it bleed. Oh my. For all their strutting and posing and swearing and posturing on stage, today's young rockers and raptors often seem like kiddies playing dress-up compared to their musical ancestors from the 1960s and 1970s. Keith Moon destroying his drum kit, Janis Joplin swigging Jack Daniels on stage, Jimi Hendrix setting fire to his guitar, Jim Morrison unzipping and exposing his innermost insecurities. Now those were the days of true debauchery. The onstage, backstage, and hotel room excesses of those Rock and Roll Hall of Famers are well documented, and at times quite exaggerated. For every true story about a guitarist destroying his hotel suite with a chainsaw, or a groupie making plaster casts from the genitalia of her conquest, there's an apocryphal tale about animals being executed on stage, or male rock stars engaging in trysts with each other. One of the more enduring and disgusting rock urban legends is the story of the preening star who collapsed on stage and is rushed to the hospital, where a quart of semen is pumped from his stomach just in time to save his life. Quotation: Rob Stewart and Elton John are the names of the most often attached to this legend. Yeah. Anywho's, when I was in college, one of my roommates ridiculed me for buying tickets to a Rod Stewart concert, saying he hoped Stewart didn't have another onstage collapse. When I told him I had no idea what he was talking about, he related the urban legend and said, "I can't believe you didn't know that story. I thought you were up on stuff like that." In my defense, I had yet to receive my postgraduate degree in urban legendology, so I didn't immediately recognize the tale as an urban legend. But I was sure the story had to be totally bunk. The ridiculously huge amount of body fluid in question and the realities of human digestive system are just two clues to the bogus nature of the tale. Not to mention that if one of the world's biggest pop stars had experienced such an astonishing collapse in public on a venue in front of 20,000 adoring fans, something tells me it might have made the papers. Usually aimed at sexually androgynous rockers, the stomach-pumping urban legend is born from homophobia and jealousy. It's a way for sexually threatened straight males to lash out at the little queer who has all those gals screaming as he prances about in his tights and his poofed-up hair and his velvet boots. Another strange sexual urban legend involves Mick Jagger, Marianne Faithfull, and a strategically placed Mars bar. Suffice it to say, that never happened. Other rock urban legends are half-truth cocktails, concocted from a blend of onstage theatrics, wild exaggerations, and pure lies. Frank Zappa's uniquely bizarre sense of humor led to some gross and shocking behavior in concert, but he never did anything involving human feces, contrary to popular lore. Alice Cooper used pints of fake blood, snakes, and a magician's guillotine in his concert appearances, but he never harmed himself or any of God's creatures. Marilyn Manson has been accused of committing any number of atrocities on stage, anything from throwing puppies into the crowd and refusing to keep playing until they are killed, to be defecated on stage and demanding a fan in just the waist. But he's no more violent than Cooper was 25 years ago. It's an act, people, okay? Okay, so what about Ozzy Osbourne and his tendency to munch on bats? According to Osbourne, it did happen, but it wasn't a regular part of his act, nor was it ever planned as an event. It happened exactly once at a 1982 concert in Des Moines, Iowa, when a fan tossed a live bat on stage. How this fan managed to bring a live bat and keep it under his jacket or shirt is beyond me. But Osbourne picked it up, thinking the thing was a toy, and he took a bite. No matter what achievements I make in my career, I will always be known as the guy who bit the bat's head off, he told the Associated Press in August 2000. Even the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame considers my career a joke because of it. Speaking of jokes and jokers, legend has it that Ozzy's dad was none other than Benny Hill. You know that song. So it's not true, but the late lyric comedian and the pie-faced frontman from Black Sabbath do have a facial resemblance. Could you imagine? And then there's Keith Richards of the Rolling Stones. Is that guy ever gonna die? Like, I think he's gonna fucking live forever. And he's still rocking and doesn't look a day over 140. And the legendary stories about him replenishing his system by undergoing complete blood transfusions, like some sort of a guitarist vampire in search of fresh blood to keep him going. I love the way that he played Jack's dad on Pirates of the Caribbean. That was pretty cool. Jack Sparrow, a.k.a. Johnny Depp's dad. Didn't he eventually die? I don't know. I'm going to have to look that up now on break. Did he die? Finally? Because I was like, man, Keith Richards is going to live forever. Is this guy really a vampire? That's kind of how I felt about it. Minnie, are your toes hurting? With the crick. So, the blood transfusion tale is firmly ensconced in rock lore. When Spin magazine published its list of the 100 sleaziest moments in rock in August of 2000, issue number 65, Keith Richards was getting a total blood transfusion. Reportedly, the kick stage passes. Life on the Wild Side with David Bowie, she recounted seeing Richards looking all bright-eyed and peppy after one of those refreshing total blood transfusions. And when Tony Sanchez, a former staffer from the Rolling Stones, wrote a book about his experiences, he claimed that Richards had a blood transfusion on several occasions to rid his system of heroin. Could you imagine? Yeah. Someone's saying, nope, his toes don't hurt. It's just something he does before he goes tits up. So in 1983 interview with the Washington Post, Richards confronted the latest rumor that he'd been born again and also addressed the blood transfusion stories. Thus the born again rumor, a new one, apart from the blood change anyway, he said. Could it be the same thing? I've never had a blood change, and I've never been born again. Quite honestly. Funny though, it's the thing people believed about me more than anything else, but it's all original blood here. I wouldn't get rid of it. I might wake up and find out I couldn't play anymore. Besides, getting a blood transfusion isn't as simple as changing the oil in one's car. If that were the case, heroin addicts the world over would be ridding themselves of their demons by getting rid of that old nasty blood from the fresh supply. Damn it, Moon. Why you gotta go tits up? Yeah, this next one is longer than I have time for right now, so guess what? We're gonna go on our first music break. And we have Nonya Doria. Let me grab my clipboard. She is from Ghana, South Africa. And she's going to be singing Kaki Jiban. And then we have Mr. Brick Casey from Boston singing Mr. Cellular Man. And then we have King Cinnamon singing Fantastic. You guys don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this music break.
We swap on Shabba, like the water bam bam. King Cinnamon. Oh shit, baddest. Take your bam bam anywhere you day. Know your bam bam, it is a Friday. Come on, let's ball, it is a holiday. Anything you want, baby, I will pay. Take your bam bam anywhere you day. Know your bam bam, it is a Friday. Come on, let's ball, it is a holiday. Anything you want, baby, I will pay. Fantastic. Baby girl, you romantic. Fantastic. Baby girl, you romantic. Put your brother, baby, got us something. Come on closer, baby, got a 19. I know you better, but I am the king. Your backside bigger than Bombay. Baby girl, broncotum. I like the way you wind your broncotum. Baby girl, broncotum. I like the way you wind your broncotum. Jamaica, Ghana, shout out to the ladies in Asia, Nigeria, South Africa. Say me love you. Please me, baby. Yeah. Turn up from you. Take your bam bam anywhere you day. Play your bam bam if it's a Friday. Come on, let's go, it is a holiday. Anything you want, baby, I will pay. Shake your bam bam anywhere you day. Play your bam bam if it's a Friday. Come on, let's go, it is a holiday. Anything you want, baby, I will pay. Fantastic. Baby girl, you romantic. Give me love. Me want you, me love you. Give me love. Oh, give me love. Hey, please me, baby. Oh. Yeah, turn up from you. Yeah, take your bam bam anywhere you day. Play your bam bam it is a Friday. Come on, let's go, it is a holiday. Anything you want, baby, I will pay. Shake your bam bam anywhere you day. Play your bam bam, it is a Friday. Come on, let's go, it is a holiday. Anything you want, baby, I will pay. Fantastic. Baby girl, you romantic. Fantastic. Baby girl, you romantic.
why buy me Joe? I'm my go, why buy me Joe? Why buy me Joe? So many fine boys in the club tonight. I wanna dance and I'm feeling kinda naughty tonight. Make you wine, I'm no darling, hold your man, 'cause I'm coming. With my bum 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 bum. With my bum 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 bum. Get down on the floor, I gon' make you act some more. I got feeling, why buy me Joe? Very cool, let come Jojo. I don't send nobody. Oh yeah, make you move your body. If you wanna just touch my body, I gon' make sure you tell a story. I don't send nobody. Oh yeah, make you move your body. If you wanna just touch my body, I gon' make sure you tell a story. Mama go, why buy me Joe? 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 So many fine boys in the club tonight. I wanna dance and I'm feeling kinda naughty tonight. Make you wine, I'm no darling, hold your man, 'cause I'm coming. Mama bum 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 bum. Mama bum 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 bum. Get down low. Yeah, 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 yeah. So many fine boys in the club tonight. I wanna dance and I'm feeling kinda naughty tonight. Make you wine, I'm no darling, hold your man, 'cause I'm coming. Mama bum 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 bum. Mama bum 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 bum. So many fine boys in the club tonight. I wanna dance and I'm feeling kinda naughty tonight. Make you wine, I'm no darling, hold your man, 'cause I'm coming. Mama bum 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 bum. Mama bum 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 bum.
Hello? I'm trying to call my baby, but it's poor reception, though. 'Cause she ain't picking up. Hello? Hello? Listen, Mr. Operator. I've been up all day and I'm trying to dial my baby's number. See, it only rings straight to the machine. 617. Now I know something must be wrong with this cell phone, 'cause my baby knows she wouldn't hang up on me. So tell me what's going on. I see most of the time phone only ring twice. How you doing, boo? Cool, how's your date? Nice. Now she ain't picking up, plus a text her. Put her to your plane, she's the one to get next to. It's not just the way, it's all day with affection. I'm hoping this detection is poor reception. Straight to the machine, mean it's like clicking my car, get connected quick. I'm saying, Mr. Cellular Phone Man, I see there's something wrong with my line. I try to dial my baby's number, but get click every time. Mr. Cellular Phone Man, I see there's something wrong with my line. I try to dial my baby's number, but get click every time. Why she ain't picking up, yo? I see the phone rings quite a few times before any answer. And I know she's home, well at least till 3. And I know she's home. No, I don't mean to be any bother operator, but could you just check and connect this call for me? 'Cause I know she's on. I see the first time I call, I'm like, maybe she working. And the second time I call, I'm like, little bit hurting. But the third time I call, I'm like, going berserk. And now half a day gone, can't get her on the horn. Usually in the morning, maybe it's something wrong. I mean, she wouldn't take this long to call back. See, we tight like that, she's supposed to be mine. So could you please try it one more time? Hey, Mr. Cellular Phone Man, I see there's something wrong with my line. I try to dial my baby's number, but get click every time. Mr. Cellular Phone Man, I see there's something wrong with my line. I try to dial my baby's number, but get click every time. Why she ain't picking up, yo? For some reason, it's like she ain't home. Just wanna get my baby on the phone. Now I know that she's there all alone. So can you please hook up my cellular phone? Hey, Mr. Cellular Phone Man, I see there's something wrong with my life.
Good evening, and thank you so much for joining us this evening on We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies. Thank you, Champ, Sandra, Jason, and Moonlit for being in the chat room and entertaining me. I'm like, hello? He's like, yeah, we can hear you. Oh, excuse me, I was just quoting the song. This is the operator. Is there someone there? Why that bitch ain't picking up? Yo. Thanks for answering, Mooney. Yeah, gotta pull the rocket off the launch pad before you try speaking. My grandmother, being a member of the Royal Canadian Air Force, was actually an operator. Could you imagine? Oh, I'm a part of the Royal Canadian Air Force, and now I'm going to answer phones and say, hello? Hello? Why she ain't picking up? Why that bitch ain't picking up? Maybe the tide is out, according to Sandra. I learned a lot from my Canadian friends. When the tide is out, things are amiss. I don't know if you know about that little story, but yeah. When the hubbies are away, these hooers will put their little tide boxes or bottles in the window. That way they get a poking from someone new. Ain't that nasty? Anywho, let me take a rip from my vape. Oh, yes. Quite agreeable. Okay, so this next chapter is called It's Not Easy Being Green CD. In the beginning of my career as a music buyer, there was a 45, aka the single, and it was good. The first single I ever bought at the Ben Franklin store in Riverdale, Illinois was Bend Me, Shape Me by American Breed. A plaintive declaration of elastic love. Bend me, shape me, any way you want me, long as you love me, it's alright. That still is heard and loved in, well, nowhere. Nobody's listening to that shit anymore, right? Somehow, M&Ms and Snoops of the world have yet to sample the unforgettable chorus of this timeless classic. You fools! Fools, I swear. All of you, fools. Spending my allowance money as fast as I could earn it, I soon filled my case of 45s with 3-minute classics by the McCoys, the 1910 Fruit Gum Company, Tommy James and the Shondells, and Country Joe and the Fish. Interesting how the latter two groups' names works, and yet Tommy James and the Country Fish and Country Joe and the Shondells both sound stupid. So by the time I reached puberty, my taste had become more refined, more sophisticated. Could you imagine? Anyways, so I joined the Columbia Record Club and started receiving LPs or albums such as Talking Book by Stevie Wonder, Hot August Night by Neil Diamond, and Venus and Mars Are All Right Tonight by Paul McCartney. Next came tapes known as 8-tracks, the Doobie Brothers. Fuck yes, I love those guys. I love the Doobie Brothers. Let me kind of try to find my space again. Ted Nugent, holy cracky. Ted Nugent, Cheap Trick. When I went off to college, the 45s were but a memory, and the 8-track tapes were long gone, but I still had a thick stack of albums to pack, along with a growing collection of cassettes, known as cassettes. I sold my albums during my senior year because I needed to eat. Yeah, everybody's got to have some food in their life. And little did I know, many of those cassettes lasted another decade after college. The longer you play them, the more, slow down they happen. Yeah, pretty cool. And then came the compact disc, aka the CD, which reigns supreme today. Walk into any music store in the country and you'll find a row upon row upon row of CDs, and little or no mention of cassettes or vinyl. You know what? I am impressed because when I go into Walmart today, yes, I'm talking about Wally World, you guys. You can Relate to me, right? Yeah, I mean, it's like, you gotta pull the record off the launch pad. Yeah, I already said that. Anyways, I was very impressed by the vinyl collection that Walmart has today. And I actually just received from my neighbor before they left with their psychotic fucking kids. You know, one of them jumped off of our pad, basically, onto my daughter's head and was very abusive. But anywho's, yeah, they moved to Pagosa Springs. That's where most psychotics move to. But yeah, I got a really cool vinyl player from these guys. And guess what? Now they're remaking vinyls. Nothing to me sounds better than vinyl. I really fucking love that shit. Anyways, let's get back here. Alright, so I sold my albums during my senior year because I needed to eat, but many of those cassettes lasted another decade after college. And then came the compact disc, aka CD, which reigns supreme today. Walk into any music store in the country, and you'll find row upon row upon row of CDs, and little or no mention of cassettes or vinyl. For vintage stuff like that, you have to visit a specialty store, except for vinyls are coming back. That's what I was just talking about. Anywho, let's go to the next. Nevertheless, a lot of true audiophiles say that vinyl is vastly superior. Did I not just say that? I just said that. Anywho's, they are superior. And to the more technically precise but relatively thin sound of a CD, which is free of pops and crackles and distortion, but somehow lacks the rich texture of the good old-fashioned record. There is, however, an inexpensive and ridiculously simple way to enrich the sound of commercial CD. It's called greening, and it involves taking a green, felt tip marker and coloring the outer inner edges of the disc, making sure you don't touch the actual playing surface of the CD. Wait for the ink to dry, pop the disc into your player, and presto changeo. Instant improvement. Can you believe it? Why would this make a difference? That's not entirely clear. But the theory is that the green coating around the edges of the plastic and aluminum disc somehow works against leakage from the laser beam that protects and projects onto the disc and creates sound. And why green? Who fucking knows? I don't know. Do you know? I don't know. Anywho, one might as well ask why Van Halen specified that only the brown M&Ms be removed from the candy dishes backstage. The venerable J.D. Considine of Baltimore's The Sun wrote about the greening phenomena more than a decade ago in a little piece titled The Greening of America, CD Style Attracts Attention. Coinciding quoted Dave Herron of the Store Audio Alternative in Portland, Oregon. Yeah. Ooh. Alright, just trying to find my spot. Yeah. Where the fuck is Oregon? I just saw it. Oh, yes, here we go. Yep, read that one. Yep, flabbergasted. So you think the digital recordings would improve the most? But on Phil Collins' face value, an analog record, I was flabbergasted, literally astounded. So, Constantine's piece came on the heels of the 1989 Consumer Electronics Show, where the CD CD greening story was making the rounds. The article in the ICE, which is known as the International CD Exchange newsletter, that he quoted in the story. Some audiophiles even claimed that the best results could be obtained with a specific type of marker. An Eberhard Faber design art marker number 255, which, incidentally, is more of a turquoise than a green. Could you imagine? Hey, Robert, welcome. Yeah, Hulk smash! Yeah. Anyways, in May of 1990, USA Today examined the trend. It's amazing that you can improve $1 million technology with dual-buck marker, said Pete Howard of the ICE newsletter. I get a great deal of satisfaction in showing that these tweaks take the perfect sound forever medium and make it a little more perfect, added Sam Tillich, a writer from the Stereophile. But a month later, the New York Times published a more skeptical piece, with Hans Venteld writing, quote, audio fans swallow a lot of nonsense. For example, otherwise sensible people have lately taken to painting their CDs green around the edge in the firm belief that this makes them sound better, but this practice is no harmless superstition. It may damage discs and conceivably cause the loss of one's entire CD collection. The entire article cited a study by In Music magazine which used a digital error counter to compare greened and unmarked discs and found no difference whatsoever. And not only did greening fail to improve sound quality, but the solvents in most markers could eventually eat away at the coating that protects the aluminum layer, thus ruining the CD. Yep, it's terrible. So why is greening useless? I don't know. Not to get too bogged down in technical jargon, but according to the experts, CDs employ technical technology, which means either the laser can read numbers and create a uniform musical reproduction, or it can read the numbers which cause the CD to skip. Did I say skip yet? Anywho, it's an either-or proposition, thus there's no sliding scale of quality that would allow for an improvement of sound quality. Years later, however, people were still talking about using a green marker or Armor All. Holy fuck, seriously? Don't use Armor All in your cars. It suffocates the leather or whatever else, plastic, pleather, whatever the fuck else is in your car, and you get the cracks. Don't use Armor All. Just use regular stuff. Holy shit, duds. Okay, so they're saying use Armor All or even a deep freezer to enhance CDs? Wow! Even today, you can find internet and stereo magazine pitches for products like CD Spotlight, which retails for about $15 and supposedly improves the sound of CDs by absorbing laser light and the CD tuning sheet, usually priced at about $3. A device you attach to the disc that can reduce that pesky electrostatic discharge. I haven't tried these products because I like to believe I have a life, but in the interest of research, I bought a standard issue green felt tip marker and conducted an uncontrolled experiment with 2 copies of David Gray's White Ladder CD. I greened one copy and left the other untouched, and asked my friend to place them into a multi-disc changer without telling me which was which, of course. I instructed my friend to play the hit single Babylon 6 times straight, using her discretion. It could be 4 versions from the green CD and 2 from the regular CD, or 6 in a row from the green version. What the fuck ever. Really. Waste of time. Anyways, my mission was to try to pick up a difference in sound quality from a take to take. It would be sort of the oral version of going to the optometrist and trying to figure out if he's messing with my head when he's showing me rows of letters and saying, is this one better or is this one? What about this one? Better still or worse? What is this? Hey, what do you see here? Is that better? Is that better? Hello, Robert. Did I say hello already? I think I did. Hello. Anywho, this was the order she selected. Green version, Babylon. Regular version, Babylon. Regular green, regular, blah, blah, blah. This is what I heard. Same. Yay. Anywho's, concerned that my cynical attitude might have influenced my reaction, I decided to try the same experiment on another friend without explanation where the whole fucking greening theory had any merit to it. I just played the greened and ungreened versions of Babylon back to back and asked him if he could notice any difference in sound quality. He said he thought the ungreened version might have sounded a little better, maybe because you don't have that stinky green inky going on. I don't freaking know. Evidence notwithstanding, there are still some audiophiles who swear by the green process. Perhaps the undeniable power of suggestion is enough to make a difference for them. So for those true believers, I've got another piece of advice. If you use a red felt tip marker, wow, on your ears, it improves the sound. Don't believe me? Just try it. Yeah, yeah, ooh, yeah. Under Washington, I don't get no 255 satisfaction. Just use toothpaste. You did. Hi! Hi, Sandra. Oh, Robert, look at you. Well, guess what our next article is? Excuse me. Eminem lives. Can you believe it? What? Paul is dead. Elvis is alive. Frank Zappa's dad was Mr. Green Jeans. John Denver was a sniper in Vietnam. You know you've joined the ranks of pop music stardom when you find yourself staring in your very own urban legend. The hits and the adulation and the sold-out stadiums are but wispy, ethereal, passing pleasures, but the urban legend lives on long after the encore. The lightning rod of controversy known as Eminem, well, the real Slim Shady, please stand up, please stand up, please stand up. Anyways, a.k.a. the real Slim Shady, his birth name is Marshall Mathers the Toyd. But that's hardly the kind of moniker that inspires images of a tough guy swaggering across the stage while hollering, yo, 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 and other deep thoughts. Seems to be an urban legend aficionado, if his lyrics are any indication. So, on the 2000 release, Stan, Eminem raps about the urban legend that the song In the Air Tonight by Phil Collins is an autobiographical story of Collins witnessing a murder by drowning and not doing anything about it, until Collins duped the killer by having him come to a concert as a contest winner, only to expose the crime by singing about it on stage. This story is detailed in my book, Urban Legends. Or as Eminem puts it, you know that song by Phil Collins from In the Air Tonight? About that guy who could have saved the other guy from drowning but didn't? Then Phil saw it, all then, as his show he found him. So, excuse me. On the 1999 single, Come On Everybody, Eminem raps. Bought Lauryn Hill's tape so her kids could starve. This is a bit of an illogical non sequitur, but what is clear is that Eminem is talking about the urban legend that has Lauryn Hill saying she would rather have my children starve than have white people buy my albums. That's pretty fucking messed up, really. Anyways, in late 2000, Eminem starred in an urban legend of his own. After a tumultuous year that included his mother suing him because of his musical claims that she was a dope fiend, a near divorce with his wife, Kim, highlighted by a barroom brawl with a guy from the Insane Clown Posse who had reportedly been smooching with Kimmy, his grandmother asking him for money so she could pay to have his uncle's body exhumed, the attempted suicide of his estranged wife, protests from his women's group and gay organizations about the lyrical content of his work and well-crafted feuds with the likes of artists Christina Aguilera, Carson Daly of MTV, NSYNC, and Limp Bizkit. After all that, the real Slim Shady met his fate in a tragic car accident, according to the supposed reports by MTV News and CNN.com that quickly circulated on the web in December. There were even pictures of the wreck that supposedly claimed Eminem's life. The car in the photo was a sensible Saturn. Now, a Saturn is a fine and sturdy automobile, but come on. Like, does anyone really see Eminem driving a Saturn? Marshall Mathers, maybe, but not the real Slim Shady. Seriously? You want to fight about it, Moon? Come on, let's fight. Bring it, dude. I will fight you, and I will win. Anywho's, as one reader put it in an email to David Emery, the About.com expert on urban legends, we read on the internet on Sunday, December 17th, that Slim Shady, aka Eminem, died in a car crash at 2:30 in the morning. According to this article, he was on his way to a late-night party, and he was drunk and high on drugs. He can't seem to locate the site. Can you find out if this is true or not? An anecdote by Neil Strauss on December 21st, 2000 edition of the New York Times led with two urban legends about Eminem. Last weekend, I record an executive stood at a party displaying news he had just received on his paper. It said Eminem was going to be named Time Magazine's Man of the Year. The message even included text from the supposed Time article. The next day, a report began appearing on music news websites that Eminem had died in a car crash. Both tales, of course, turned out to be false. Thank God Eminem was okay. Like, how else could we live, really? What would we do, Robert? Sandra? What would we do if there was no Eminem? How would we survive? How would we live? How would we eat? How would we thrive? I don't know. Anywho's, fuck the guy. Anyways, it says, but Eminem is dead rumor picked up so much steam that the rapper's official site issued a statement. Despite sick-minded ne'er-do-well attempts to create a state of panic in this grand country by the virtue of a well-crafted CNN.com fake news story prank, our beloved Slim Shady, Slim Shady, is alive and well. Marshall is alive and at home with his family for the holidays in Detroit and wishes all of you a shady holiday and a dirty new year. Congratulations. You just fell for that shit. I don't care for Reese's Pieces. Me neither. I actually have some Reese's Big Cups in here that I've been saving, and remember for Christmas, I got those really big cups. I ate a portion of one of them, and Robert has seen me destroy these motherfuckers. Well, guess what? I left it on my desk here, and then the fucking mouse that I thought that died from a diabetic coma from eating my little strawberry candies decided to eat the insides, the little peanut butter insides from my big cups, and all that was left was the chocolatey shell. So I threw that shit away. I'm super surprised that this mouse did not die from a diabetic coma, because my daughter Nova, who, it's been a long time since we've been in a fight, but last night we got in a fight. Not physical, just verbally. But anywho. Yeah, she came in here to grab some Q-tips because, yeah, she needs my Q-tips. And she saw a mouse running around, and the mouse kept running into the wall, and I'm like, yep. It's just a mouse having a diabetic coma. It's about to die because of all that sugar it ate from all those little strawberry candies. Well, guess what? It did not die, and it came back and ate my fucking big cup, which is not a big cup, an extra large cup, which I got for Christmas. I still have one sitting out there, and then I have a big cups package in here right now. You would never believe it, but hey, guess what? I'm going to take a hit off my vape, and then we got another chapter called Fire and Rain. I knew this was about James Taylor, and I love this song. And I'm afraid to read this right now, because I don't want to know. I don't want to know, Sandra. James Taylor was in his early 20s when he penned Fire and Rain, one of the most powerful and moving ballads ever recorded about the pain of loss. With the instantly familiar acoustic guitar opening that soon meets up with the somber piano chords, you can feel the ache of longing even before Taylor begins to sing in a sweet voice, sad voice, saying, "Just yesterday morning, they let me know that you were gone. Suzanne, the plans that we made put an end to you. ... Of all the singer-songwriters of the 1960s and 70s, none was more sensitive or poetic than young James Taylor. Even his demons were spectacularly romantic and darkly attractive. His suicidal rage as a teenager, the bout with mental illness that necessitated the 9-month stay in a mental institute, his addiction to heroin, his tumultuous marriage to Carly Simon, and then... Why the fuck is my finger showing red? This is so weird. And then there was the famous Suzanne of Fire and Rain. When Taylor sings about the plans they made, he's talking about her funeral arrangements, yes? And the chorus, with its tagline of, "But I always thought I'd see you again," tells us that James didn't see it coming. He had no idea his beloved Suzanne was in such pain. Or wait, what? What's happening here? Maybe she wasn't a suicide at all. Maybe she was the casualty of a plane crash. Consider this posting, which appears on a fascinating website called Meanings of Lyrics of Songs from the 1970s. Someone put on this page that Fire and Rain was about a woman who was with him in a mental ward. Although he was in a mental ward, 1970s answer to heroin rehab, and he did write a song about that, Knocking Around the Zoo. This song is not about that. Here is the real story. When James Taylor went off to record his first album shortly after he was signed, his girlfriend Susan had to stay at home. They could not afford a ticket for her, and since it was 1970 and he was a new artist, the label did not front any money. As a surprise, as he was finished up on an album, his friends and the label pitched in the fly Susan to be with him. Tragically, the airplane crashed and she was killed. Since it was a surprise, he did not hear about it until after he finished the album, and the label told him what had happened. Isn't that sad? So, that's what Taylor meant when he sang about sweet dreams and flying machines in pieces on the ground. But even if his girlfriend's visit was to be a surprise, was Taylor so obscured that he had no contact with the outside world, whether it would be news organizations reporting on the crash or loved ones who would want to tell him what happened? And who were these people who didn't tell Taylor about the plane crash until after he had finished the album? If that had really happened, wouldn't he have recorded an album titled I'd like to throttle the heartless bastards at my record company for not telling me that my girlfriend was killed? Fuck you guys. Anyways, there's fan postings on the James Taylor website that tell these versions of the story. Something I heard about this line goes like this. JT had a girlfriend that he was really focused on. Some friends decided that she was a bad influence on him and convinced her to go away for a while. They bought her a plane ticket, she got on the plane, and en route it crashed and she was killed in an accident. She was the sweet dream and the airplane was the flying machine. Star, star, star. Next one. The real story behind James's Fire and Rain, As I understand it, is that some friends of James were going to surprise James by bringing him his girlfriend Suzanne to one of his concerts, unbeknownst to James. According to the story, Suzanne's plane crashed, Sweet Dreams and Flying Machines and Pieces on the Ground, on her way to see the concert, and Suzanne dies. Suzanne, the plans they made put an end to you. Star, star, star. Fire and Rain was written about a friend of JT's. Suzanne, they met when they were in Austin Riggs for heroin addiction. They became very, very close friends. After JT was released, they spoke on the phone a lot, helping each other out and to be released, but committed suicide very close to her release date. Really? The line, Sweet Dreams and Flying Machines and Pieces on the Ground, refers to JT's past and the breakup of his past band, The Flying Machine. Star, star, star. Oh my god, so, which is it? Suicidal girlfriend or a girlfriend in a plane crash? Neither. So parts of The Fire and Rain are about suicide, but Suzanne wasn't really Taylor's girlfriend. She was a friend of his. So Taylor himself was so fragile at that time that friends didn't think that he could handle the news. So he wasn't told of Suzanne's death until a few months after the fact. Are you fucking serious? I would be so angry. Seriously. Not to disparage for a moment the feelings Taylor had for his troubled young woman, but if they'd been extremely close, that is, boyfriend and girlfriend, wouldn't he have been trying to get in touch with her during the interim? How could her suicide have been shielded from him for months? The first verse, and probably the chorus, is about Suzanne. But that's just one element of a mini trilogy of events covered in the song. Verse 2 deals with Taylor's drug addiction. Won't you look down upon me, Jesus? You gotta help me make a stand. You just gotta see me through another day. And at least part of the third verse seems to be about the breakup of a band Taylor was in, called The Flying Machine. Sweet Dreams and Flying Machines and Pieces on the Ground. In February 1971, the edition of Rolling Stones magazine, Taylor said, the first verse was to a reaction of a friend of mine killing himself, or herself, sorry. The second verse of it is about my kicking junk just before I left England, and the third verse is about my going into a hospital in Western Massachusetts. It's just a hard time song, a blues without having the blues form. In Fire and Rain, the James Taylor story, the controversial author, Ian Halperin, repeats many of the urban legends mentioned here, but also makes the claim that Taylor has privately admitted to friends that Suzanne was a girl he met while in Austin Riggs Mental Hospital. Several months after, Taylor left the institution, and he learned that Suzanne had killed herself. Halperin also reports that Fire and Rain was in constant rotation on Elvis Presley's turntable in the weeks before the king died. Dozens of concert viewers and newspaper articles about Taylor used the shorthand of the saying, Fire and Rain is about a friend's suicide. The more complex and layered meaning of Taylor's signature classic doesn't dilute its power an iota, but it does mean that the commonly believed interpretation of Fire and Rain is more urban legend than pop music. You know what I heard? Let me take a hit off my vape really quick. So what I heard was this was not a story about a junkie girlfriend or anything like that. This was about a friend of James Taylor's that died from cancer. She didn't kill herself. Didn't she die from cancer? Anybody that knows the story or has heard the legend, please make your comments known here in the chat room or there on YouTube. Let us know what your thoughts are, because I thought it was about his friend Suzanne, who had cancer. I never thought it was about a drug addict friend that, he left the cycle and left and, went on with his life, and then she killed herself. Pretty sure. Didn't she die from cancer? Sandra? Robert? Mooney? I don't know. So weird. Okay. So the next chapter is called Little Girl. Let me pick up this thing I dropped really quick. Anyways. In the late summer of 2000, Nashville songwriter Harley Allen and country singer John Michael Montgomery teamed up to do something that has rarely been done before, even though it seems like an obvious idea. They turned an urban legend into a hit song. Think about all the great little self-contained stories that exist in the urban legend canon, from the vanishing hitchhiker to the killer with a hook on his hand to the story of the bride who cancels the wedding after announcing that her groom-to-be had slept with her maid of honor. Goofy urban legends could be turned into novelty songs, while myths about infidelity are perfect fodder for country western singers and religious ULs for Christian artists. Heavy metal players could have fun with satanic-themed and serial killer urban legends, and rappers could use fables about love and murder and gang initiations as material. Hey, it's not like you're going to get sued for stealing somebody's story, right? For that to happen, someone would have to step forward and prove that he or she is the original creator of the urban legend, and we all know that such a thing never happens because these stories are almost always impossible to trace back to square one. I just got a really good whiff of some herbages. So urban legends have been implemented into dozens of movies, books, and TV shows, but I can't recall a single pop hit that is a direct interpretation of a familiar urban legend. That is until the internet email that has been circulating for at least a half dozen years. It's usually titled, "And the little child shall lead them," or "Held by Jesus," and it's been used in church sermons and appears on a number of Christian websites as well. Here's one version. There was an atheist couple who were nothing but trouble. He was a drinker, and she was a drug addict, and neither one of them could hold down a job. To make matters worse, they were atheists. When they had a little baby girl, they never once told her a single thing about the Lord. One night, when the girl was 5 years old, her parents got into a terrible fight that ended with the dad shooting the mom and killing her, and then turning the gun on himself and committing suicide. The frightened little girl witnessed all of this. The authorities came, and the little girl was sent to a foster home where she was welcomed by loving parents who believed in God. On the first day of Sunday school, the foster mother took the teacher aside and said, "She's never been taught anything about Jesus, so please be patient with her." And the teacher said, "I understand." The teacher began class by holding up a picture of Jesus and saying, "Does anyone know who this is?" To the teacher's surprise, the little girl raised her hand and said, "I do. That's the man who was holding me the night my mom and my parents died." Sure, it's sentimental and manipulative, and if you're a non-believer, or if your faith takes you in a different direction, you might be rolling your eyes in the pure schmells of it all. But, as parables go, it's powerful and effective on a basic level. Still, there's nothing in that well-circulated email that indicates that the story is anything but a nicely crafted little story to make a point in Christian teachings. So according to press reports, Harley Allen, who was writing his hits for Linda Ronstadt, Garth Brooks, Alan Jackson, and many others, came across the story in the late 1990s. "My brother sent it to me in an email," he told Nashville's The Tennessean. "I tried to trace it where it came from, but I could never find out whether it was true or a legend. Alan told USA Today the email moved me more than I'd been moved in years by a story. I grabbed the guitar and just started writing. It didn't take any time at all, about 10 or 15 minutes. The result was The Little Girl, a more detailed version of the fable. It begins, her parents never took the young girl to church, never spoke his name, never read his words. Alan's lyrics go on to talk about the drinking and the fighting and how things went from bad to worse until her daddy, in a drunk rage one night, used a gun on her mom and then took his life. The little girl was taken in by a new mom and dad, and on the first day of Sunday school, she sees Jesus on the cross and says she knows that man, and as he was the one who held her close the night her parents died. Montgomery laid down a traditional, clean acoustic and steel guitar-driven track and contributed an understated but strong vocal backed by Alison Krauss and Dan Tyminski that further distinguished The Little Girl from the typical slick flair playing on a country station these days. So even before Montgomery's Brand New Me album was officially released, The Little Girl was leaked to radio stations and became an immediate sensation. The kind of tune that prompts an immediate number of calls from listeners asking about the little artist. It's the biggest reaction record we've had all year, John Anthony of WNZQ in Washington, D.C. told Montgomery's website, which also quoted Travis Moon of KEEY-FM saying, "We played the song once and got about 75 calls. This song ranks in the top 5 of all time in positive testing in the history of the station. At the end of 2000, The Little Girl was listed as the 10th biggest hit of the year in country music. And in a bizarre, real-life development that sounds like an urban legend, or at least like something you'd